Hazbin Hotel. This show infamous for its raunchy humour, allegedly terrible writing, and a love of profanity. I first watched season 1 in the middle of 2024, and since then have been a fan of it and Vivian Madrano's other work, Hell of a Boss. But with season 2 of Hazbin Hotel concluding a few months ago, it seemed about right for me to take a look at the show at a more base level, to see if it's actually good or not. And you know what? It is! It's a good, fun show. It has its flaws, absolutely, but by no means do I dislike the show. So today, I figured I'd take a look through both seasons of Hazbin Hotel and talk about what I like and don't like about each one. While I have read the 2 introductory comics and seen the pilot and Addict, I won't be talking about them in this video, aside from a few references here and there when relevant. And a couple more things. Spoilers for both seasons, obviously, though I imagine if you chose to watch this video, you knew that already. And Hazbin Hotel is available to watch on Prime Video. This video talking about it does not serve as a substitute for watching the show. With that stuff out of the way, hiya, my name is Foxy, and welcome to the video.
Mr. Adam, sir.
Call me Dickmaster.
Adam.
Our introduction to the series is Overture, and it starts with some world building, telling us about Lucifer and how his want for free will eventually broke the order heaven had wanted. Lucifer and Lilith were cast down to hell. Lilith grew in this new realm, eventually leading to heaven calling for the exterminations to keep sinners down. This does very nicely set up the outline for the season. We know who our protagonist is, what her goal is, and why she has the goal. The only thing missing is the where. However, this commercial tells us everything we need to know about that, as well as being a pretty perfect representation of how Alistair views the hotel. He's helping Charlie, but in his own twisted comedic way. He's pretty much only doing stuff that benefits him. Angel Dust is the next of the cast introduced to us, and we see that he doesn't really believe in redemption all that much, but is still seemingly willing to give it a shot. Charlie leaves to take a call from her dad, and when she calls Vaggie over, we learn that the leader of the Exorcist army wants to meet. And Lucifer's asked Charlie to go in his place, which she accepts. And cue the first song of the show, Happy Day in Hell. This song very effectively illustrates Charlie's blind optimism in her hotel and finding the good in sinners. The Disney-esque musical number contrasted with the violence and antics happening around her convey that Charlie's goals might be a little far-fetched. Vaggie's interjections in the first verse also show that while she will do what she can to support her girlfriend, she's also a lot more realistic about it, trying to let Charlie know to not get her hopes up too high over just a single meeting. It balances out Charlie's naive hope nicely. The song ends with Charlie at the Heaven Embassy, ready for her meeting. She heads inside and meets Adam, who pretty expertly showcases how much of a dick he is. Back at the hotel, Vaggie has got the rest of the hotel cast together to make a new commercial ready for when Charlie comes back. We see a scene where everyone's favourite grumpy bartender Husk is welcoming Angel to the hotel, and one where Nifty is supposed to say, "We have the cleanest rooms." But instead... The commercial parts of the episode are my favourite, and I particularly love the "we can fix it in post" line. Vaggie's a little clueless, but her heart is definitely in the right place, and she's a lovely add-on to Charlie. Alistair and Vaggie make a deal for him to properly help with the commercial, instead of being, to quote Vaggie,
shit ass.
His little
Fair enough.
in the scene is very telling. He knows he's being a smug little prick, and he loves it. I also love this little callback to the pilot with the outfits Alistair gives the cast too. I think that Alistair as a character here is very well set up. Vaggie calls him a demon overlord, and some of what he says throughout the episode, such as implying that he could force people to stay at the hotel, shows that he is a demon with a great deal of power. I wonder how Charlie's getting on with her meeting. It's going great. The second Charlie brings up the problem, Adam and Luke pretty instantly shut down her idea of redeeming souls. She tries one more time with another song, though this very much does not go in her favour. Adam cuts her off pretty quickly again and gives us the main body of the song, Hell is Forever. We see his arrogance, and he reveals that he's made the choice to halve the time between exterminations. Oh dear. To conclude the episode, we get a short scene between Adam and Lute, where they reveal the dead exorcist, and that it's the first time one has ever been killed. Spooky. The first episode is pretty good. It introduces us to the main cast, shows us the ongoing conflict between heaven and hell, and introduces us to Charlie's motives with the hotel and redeeming sinners. Everything here feels pretty natural, and I really like the world that it's building. On to episode 2. Radio killed the video star.
I'm a bad man on the streets who never got enough hugs.
Episode 2 picks up pretty much right where the first leaves off, with Charlie, Vaggie, and Angel reacting to the new timetable the Angels have put them on. Vaggie is doing what she can to reassure Charlie, and Angel is not confident.
What is a donkey show?
Good question, Charlie, though let's not answer that. Go out and recruit some more sinners for the hotel. Oh, and there goes the wall. And here's Sir Pentious, in his war machine and with the Egg Boys. Alistair gives him some snack, and we get a mention of the group called the V's. And following Alistair's dismissal, we actually get to meet them. We first get introduced to Vox and Velvet, who mention the third, Valentino. It's pretty apparent that Vox and Velvet don't exactly appreciate Val's temper, especially since he's currently ruining Velvet's work. So it's up to Vox to calm him down. Velvet calling him the piss baby did get a laugh out of me, I must admit. We learn that Valentino is Angel Dust's boss, which makes the message spam on Angel's phone make sense, since Val is pissed off that Angel moved to the hotel. We'll see more of Val's antics in a couple episodes' time, but to say the least, this seems like a very unhealthy relationship that the two have. Vox's face when Val smashes up his phone suggests that this isn't the first time that something like this has happened. Vox seems to be able to calm Val down pretty effectively, and after Val reveals that Alistair is staying at the hotel, he reacts very reasonably, leading us into Stayed Gone, one of my favourite songs in the season. The doodle of Alistair that Vox shows here pretty much shows how extreme and petty his hatred is. Most of it is primary school level insults. There's also a couple of hints that Valentino and Velvet don't share this hatred, both with how disinterested they look here, and the fact that Alistair, albeit indirectly, actually compliments the other Vs, saying that without them, Vox would be powerless. I also really like this red-blue section of the song video too. It illustrates how Alistair can maintain control over Vox regardless of the situation. I imagine this is because while the two do despise each other, Alistair is better at not letting that anger get the better of him. For the last section of the song, we get an incredible display of Alistair's power, where he wipes out the signal to the entirety of Pentagram City, and gives us a version of the first verse of the song, with added harpsichord, that shows he is not one to be messed with. This little meeting scene following Stayed Gone shows the V's working together to work out how to keep tabs on Alistair without being detected. Continuing what I said earlier about the other V's not caring that much about Alistair, Valentino seems to be paying more attention to bedazzling his gun than he does the meeting. He and Velvet chip in, but Vox is absolutely the one driving the Alistair hate train. Back at the hotel, Pentious returns. I'm just going to ruin the twist here and let you know that he is the down-on-his-luck loser that Vox has hired to be the inside man at the hotel. Of course, Charlie thinks he's here to be redeemed, and after giving Vaggie the puppy dog eyes, Pentious is welcomed into the hotel. We get to see some of the shenanigans that Charlie thinks will redeem people, including cringy icebreaker games that wouldn't be out of place at a kid's birthday party, and a scene where Angel is posing as a drug dealer, and Pentious is learning to say no to drugs, and
To not have sexual intercourse before marriage.
Charlie praises Pentious, telling him how proud she is of him, which seems to really get to Angel. He retreats to his room, seeming very defeated, and replays some of the many voicemails that Valentino has sent him. I adore the detail here that the ones where Val is calm have hearts for their sound waves, while the aggressive ones look spikier and look like they have screaming mouths in them. After cycling through 8 of these messages, we get what I think is Angel hallucinating. hearing his boss tell him that he'll never change. He heads to the bar, grabs an entire bottle of something, and discovers that Pentious is planting a camera. After a brief fight between the two, Vox abandons Pentious, and we get our Medrano-mandated second song of the episode. It starts with Sorry. Vaggie and Angel don't want to forgive him, pretty understandable to be honest, but Charlie still sees the good in him, and after Pentious makes a genuine apology in the song and accepts that he did wrong, Vaggie is prepared to give him another shot, though it's more for Charlie's sake, I imagine. While this isn't up there in my favourite songs for the season, I still appreciate what it stands for, with it setting Pentious on his arc for the season, actually wanting to improve and being willing to do what it takes to do so. It gives us a better look at how Charlie and Vaggie see things too. Charlie will always forgive people and trust that they have good within them, whereas Vaggie was willing to give him a shot at first, but after getting her trust betrayed, is willing to kill Pentious. This episode fleshes out the world a fair bit more, introducing us to the V's and the last of our main hotel cast, Sir Pentious. The last thing it does, albeit briefly, is show how scared Hell are of the extermination, as most of the sinners seem to be freaking out about it. With all that covered, it's time to move on to episode 3, Scrambled Eggs, where we see how Hell's overlords are handling this new extermination deadline.
Popsicles, you sicko! Get your mind out of the gutter!
Episode 3 gives us more of a look into Pentious, showing how he doesn't really trust the others at the hotel yet. Vaggie is the one that steps up here. She shuts down Pentious' evil scheming and forces him to give up the eggs, asking Alistair to dispose of them. Sensing the lack of trust, Charlie decides to work on that for today's shenanigans. It's time for...
Trust exercises!
Oh shit. Trust falls first, with Vaggie explaining the idea drill sergeant style. Angel fucks with Husk some more, Pentious wants to die without the egg boys, and Nifty keeps jumping off the stage. Alistair, meanwhile, heads on his outing with the eggs, and Zestial, Hell's oldest overlord, joins him for the walk to the overlord meeting. I have to say, I love the overlord designs. Zestial's cape cobweb thing is lovely, Rosie's whole outfit is very pretty, and as a scene girly myself, I adore Zizi's look. Oh, and Velvet's here, fashionably late, and her outfit is also stunning. She looks different in every scene, and I genuinely don't think she has a single bad outfit across both seasons. Oh, I love how insulted Alistair looks here when Carmilla pretty bluntly says that she doesn't care where he's been. Velvet tosses the head of a dead exorcist onto the table after sassing Carmilla, and honestly, I don't blame her for dismissing Zestial here. Calling a dead exorcist, something that before this, most of the overlords would have assumed were invincible, meager proof, is a long shot. This leads us nicely into Respectless, and something almost akin to that of a soliloquy in song form. Velvet makes her stance very clear. She thinks that Zestial and Carmilla are past their best before date. It makes sense. I am on Velvet's side here. Fighting back against the exorcists would probably be a good idea if properly thought out. The instrumentation in Respectless is also stunning. It starts with a Spanish acoustic guitar for when Carmilla is singing, before effortlessly transitioning into this more modern, brassy sound for Velvet. I particularly like how during Zestial's line, the instrumentation stays with Velvet's sound. It's clear that at the start of the song, Carmilla caught Velvet off guard, but since Zestial's words mean nothing to Velvet, the music keeps her instrumentation. Velvet does actually make a lot of strong points throughout the song, such as questioning why Carmilla wants to avoid war, despite being the top weapons dealer in all of Hell, and that Carmilla and Zestial are thinking in very outdated ways, as it's pretty clear that their current plans for Extermination Day isn't protecting Hell if 16% of the population was lost in the last extermination alone. Velvet throws out the accusation that Carmilla killed the angel, and instead of even attempting to come up with a defense, Carmilla calls off the meeting. We move back to the hotel gang briefly here, and we see that the trust building exercises are going great. Angel has dragged them to a BDSM club, and following this, Vaggie throws Angel and Pentious into the middle of a fight happening in the Doomsday District. Charlie stops her from tossing Nifty off a building, and we get a line from Vaggie that kind of perfectly illustrates my main problem with her in the show.
If I can't help you, what's the point of me?
I mentioned it earlier, where I said that Vaggie is a good extension of Charlie, supporting her dreams but staying more realistic than she does. But that's almost all she is. Aside from episode 7 and 8, where we get a hint from Rosie that Vaggie is also trying to redeem herself, and the fight scene between Vaggie and Lute, every motive she has seems to be the exact same as Charlie. Stealing this line of thought from a friend I forced to watch the show a few months back, but I think to a slight degree, Charlie and Vaggie's relationship is a detriment to the show. It leaves Vaggie with very little agency of her own. Yes, there's the whole twist of her being an exorcist angel, but even then, her side of the resolution to that is to do something Charlie asked her to do. She's just overwritten by Charlie's motives and not really getting the chance to explore her own. I am really hoping Season 3 gives us a chance to see Vaggie come into her own and properly give us a look into her character as more than just an extension of Charlie. Because of right now, we just sadly haven't had much of that. Now, as much as I've just criticised Vaggie, I still adore more than anything the duet between Carmilla and her. Two different bleeding hearts doing anything they can for those they love, but being terrified of failing them. Starting with Carmilla, she reveals that she killed the angel to protect her daughters, but is scared to let Hell know, thinking that it may cause an uprising and lead to more war, putting her daughters in more risk. Vaggie sings about how Charlie helped her feel understood in Hell, and because of this, will do anything possible to protect Charlie and make her dreams come true. I really like the parallel here, especially with how we get to see Vaggie and Carmilla act with each other later in episode 7. After giving it some time, Vaggie returns to the hotel, and her and Charlie resolve the conflict from earlier. It feels very deserved, honestly. They've had time to reflect, and we see that Vaggie's idea of throwing them into war has actually got them on better terms with each other. I also appreciate the circular narrative this episode has, with the ending being Vaggie trusting Pentious to look after the Egg Boys without causing trouble. It shows her development throughout the episode nicely, and shows that she also has learned to trust the other hotel residents, as well as them learning to trust each other. Overall, this is a very good episode, and I think it's stronger than the first two. With that, on to episode 4. Season 1, Episode 4, Masquerade. My discussion of this episode covers themes of drug misuse, physical, emotional, and sexual abuse. The video is timestamped. Please skip to the next chapter if you are uncomfortable with these topics. Thank you. We start in the middle of show and tell, with Angel Dust showing off one of his best works, Husk shutting it down. I haven't spoke about Husk really at all up to this point, since he didn't have much of a role in the first 3 episodes, outside of just being the grumpy drunk bartender. Angel was absolutely about to crash out at Husk after he calls him fake, but Valentino calls him, so we have to hold that thought. Angel disappears off for work, dismissing Charlie's pleas for him to stay. This kickstarts the main conflict of the episode, with Vaggie telling Charlie that she could be using her powers as Princess of Hell to command a little more authority through aggressive kindness. Charlie heads to the porn studio to try and get Angel more time off work. Oh, the poor naive soul. Hi, editing folks here. I only noticed this detail while flicking through the episode to put the video together, but Charlie blushing here is such a cute detail. She is so hopelessly gay. She ruins the film shoot, and apologizes to Angel in a way that doesn't feel genuine to me, as I don't think she understands the situation that Angel is in. Final content warning for this episode. Skip now to episode 5 if the themes listed on screen are upsetting to you. Angel's characterization in the first 3 episodes starts to make a lot of sense after the events of Masquerade. I get the sense that Angel, before dealing his soul away to Valentino, didn't have much going for him in Hell, and this persona that we've seen of him so far is likely the only way he's ever had any real gratification. Because of this, he adopted the name Angel Dust permanently and seems to not really know how to get out of the persona that constantly flirts with everyone. He keeps chasing the high he gets from the sexual gratification. He doesn't feel like anything else he can do is worthwhile. Angel Dust is also a somewhat accurate representation of the mistreatment of sex workers in the real world, as beneath his portrayed hypersexuality and confidence, he is exploited by someone who profits from his body. Angel is quite literally owned by Valentino, whose power over him is far more than simply contractual. Valentino is abusive and sadistic, using intimidation and emotional manipulation to keep Angel compliant, and I have to imagine that his persona was something that was shaped and then used against him. His value to Val is measured entirely by how much money and attention he generates. Val does not care about Angel's well-being or humanity, reducing him to just a product instead of an individual. Poison is a perfect depiction of this. The porn industry thrives on this dehumanization in its more exploitative corners because once someone is related to a product, it makes it easier to justify coercion, represented here by the scenes where Val and Angel are having sex, this being how Angel would temporarily pacify Valentino whenever he makes mistakes, also known as Val finding pitiful excuses to exert his fragile sense of control over Angel. Angel is also working one set after another here with very little rest, and this line of work is very physically demanding. Masquerade as an episode to me completely reframes Angel Dust as a character. His constant flirtatious remarks, despite being framed as throwaway jokes, are survival strategies. He uses this as a way to maintain a sense of control over his agency, when in reality, he has very little control over anything he does. It constantly feels like everyone expects him to always look and be perfect, and to always stay as what they know him for, and hide his fear and exhaustion underneath. Valentino cultivates this disconnect, encouraging Angel to lean into whatever sells, while simultaneously isolating him from outside support and trapping him within the industry. Angel's dependency on Valentino is as contractual as it is emotional. Everything has been designed to trap him in a cycle that he cannot break free from. And before moving to the hotel, we learned that Angel was living with Val, further deepening this dependency. To me, one of the most disturbing aspects of Angel's portrayal is how his suffering is invisible to the outside world. We see this with both Charlie and Husk, who both treat him as they do because they do not understand the situation they are walking into. From an outsider's perspective, Angel is portrayed as famous and desired, masking the mistreatment he suffers, as people assume that because they see him as this perfect star on the screen, everything has to be fine. Valentino's treatment of Angel oscillates between praise and cruelty, keeping him emotionally off-key and desperate for approval, making him easier to control. Angel's fear of Valentino is learned, built from repeated experiences of being abused when he resists. He is afraid to say no, as previously it would have led to him being threatened or assaulted by Valentino. Something I do appreciate about the way Angel is portrayed, however, is that he is not treated as weak or stupid for being trapped, though this is something I'll be complaining about later on. Here, at least, he's shown as a victim of a system designed to exploit him, countering the popular narrative that sex workers who are abused brought it on themselves by choosing that line of work. It is often much darker than a simple choice. Angel and Val's relationship depicts the hierarchy of the real-world porn industry, where the workers themselves are mistreated and abused, being forced to keep a mask on at all times, and those at the top are empowered to treat people as disposable once the mask starts to slip. The last thing I want to cover in regards to Poison is a few of the visuals where we see how Angel is keeping his mask up. He is unable to get enough time to properly address his issues, so he is forced to choose quick fixes such as drugs and alcohol. Poison as a song feels very similar to Does Your Mother Know by ABBA, with it having a very upbeat instrumental but incredibly dark themes intertwined throughout the lyrics, reflecting what I've previously said about Angel's situation. On the surface, he's perfect. Underneath, he feels like he is drowning, and his coping mechanisms are working less and less. Once back at the hotel, we see the start of Angel's breakdown, and the first real development of Husk as a character. He pretty effortlessly sees right through Angel's persona, and is trying to help out in his own special way. After hitting his head on the top of the bar, Angel's mask starts to slip, though to me at least, he feels angry at himself here instead of Husk. He's angry that his persona isn't working on Husk, and he doesn't understand why. He storms off to a bar, and Charlie and Baggy get Husk to go after him. I very much like this little scene between the three of them after Angel storms out. We get some actual character growth from Charlie here, with her understanding that she pushed too hard and messed up. She asks for Husk to not also push it, and to just make sure he's safe instead of forcing him back to the hotel. If only Season 2 didn't completely undo this growth, but that's something we'll cover a bit later. Husk begrudgingly agrees and heads after Angel, and it's a very good job that he decided to. Angel sat with a group of shark sinner demons, drinking, doing lines, the whole 9 yards. Husk is very clearly uncomfortable with how these sinners are flirting with Angel, and after watching one of them spike his drink with Velvet's love potion, intervenes and gets Angel out of there. Husk pushes again, still not understanding the gravitas of the situation. This shot of Angel walking away from Husk shows everything. He's turned away from Husk and lets just his expression slip, as it's part of him that he knows Husk can't see. However, getting told,
"So you might as well just cut the act,"
one more time pushes him past his breaking point, and we get Angel at his lowest. His soliloquy shows him with no walls left standing. He spills everything that's been building up for the past however long it's been, and Husk realizes he was wrong to push Angel and confides in him. We learn that Husk used to be an overlord, but lost his power through gambling and made a deal with Alistair to keep it. Both of them have made deals they regret, and neither of them appear to have a way to take it back. Loser Baby is a phenomenal song. Roman and David's vocals pair beautifully together, and I also love what the song stands for too. For the first half of the song, Angel sees it as Husk just making fun of him, but throughout the song, he learns that Husk is showing Angel that he's allowed to show his weaknesses and vulnerabilities, and not be seen as worthless for it. The scene afterwards has Husk and Angel working together pretty effectively too, and I love the little saxophone rendition of Loser Baby in the background here. I'll play a little bit of it now.
I told you, I can handle myself, baby.
It's lovely to see Husk and Angel end this episode on good terms, and I appreciate the cute addict reference as they walk back into the hotel. It's really sweet that this little animation mistake got made canon, especially with it not even feeling like that much of a stretch either, since Valentino is a moth and wears glasses, so his eyes being terrible makes sense. The last thing I want to touch on for this episode is Charlie. I mentioned before that her apology at the studio didn't feel genuine. However, the one she gives to Angel once he and Husk come back to the hotel absolutely does. When Angel first returns after the events of Poison, we see Charlie in the background consider talking to Angel, but she stops herself when she realizes that he definitely isn't in the right headspace to talk to anyone. After Husk and Angel return to the hotel later, she's had enough time to process everything and understand the situation. And with her planning a lesson on boundaries, partially to better understand them herself I imagine, it's nice to see her give a genuine apology and for Angel to forgive her. This episode is absolutely my favourite of the entire show so far. We get some genuine character growth from the protagonist, a somewhat accurate yet respectful portrayal of sex work and the effects it can have on people, and the reveal of how terrifying of a villain Valentino is. I cannot wait to see more of him, and Angel and Husk are easily my favourites within the hotel cast, with Angel being a few rungs above Husk on that ladder. I think this is an episode that perfectly shows the strengths of Viv and her team as writers. Everything gets a fair resolution that doesn't feel rushed, and it advances the overall plot very nicely. Now, on to episode 5.
Oh my golly, you like girls! Yes, so do I! We have so much in common!
The episode opens with Charlie having a little bit of a manic episode, panicking about why the hotel hasn't worked yet. Vaggie suggests asking Charlie's dad, which she's very hesitant to do. I love how smug Husk looks here when Charlie explains her daddy issues, and I also really love the little detail here of Angel taking away Nifty's knife. It's nice to see him look out for the others. And now, we get the true reveal of, as Angel puts it,
The big dick in charge.
He's scary. He's ominous. He's terrifying. Oh, never mind. He's just a goofy little guy making a backflipping rubber duck that spits fire. The phone call goes about as you'd expect. Lucifer is absolutely clueless as a father, but he's seemingly trying his best to be a good dad. Though he does pretty quickly try and stop Charlie from getting a meeting with Heaven for reasons that will become apparent later in the episode. He does accept Charlie's invite to see the hotel, and once he shows up, we pretty quickly see the rivalry between Lucifer and Alistair form. My theory for this rivalry won't become clear until the 4th episode of next season, but I think it's because Lucifer rivals Alistair's power, and as we know, Alistair was promised the position of strongest sinner in hell. Alistair is trying to shut Lucifer out by acting very supportive of Charlie, but it's just performative since I think he's scared that someone with more power than him is going to get in his way. Hell's Greatest Dad is the peak of this, with the visual showing exactly how Lucifer feels towards Alistair, showing the many ways he wants to kill him. It shows how desperate Lucifer is to win Charlie's favour, and how good Alistair is at getting in his head. Alistair butting into the song, and then later calling it his song, is very telling of his character. He wants to keep Charlie as his project, and not let Lucifer get a look in. He really is a tacky piece of Oh! Hey, Mimsy. I'll come back to Mimsy in a moment, but now let's shift focus to the parallel of Lucifer and Charlie. This contrast is one of my favourite in the show. Charlie, albeit naively, wants to see the good in every sinner, while Lucifer has become lethargic after being banished to hell, seeing the free will he granted them used in only bad ways. It makes sense that Lucifer doesn't have much faith in the hotel as a concept, but he does have faith in Charlie. We see him put aside his doubts and do what he can to help his daughter. It's honestly very sweet to see, though it does feel a little rushed, with more than anything sort of popping up out of nowhere. Regardless, it is a wonderful song, and Jeremy Jordan is a fantastic singer. Personally, I think Mimsy is the reason Lucifer's arc feels rushed. I'll start with what I like about Mimsy, that being her VA. Sarah Stiles is an incredible singer. Her ability to get so much power in the vowel sounds during her part of Hell's Greatest Dad is very impressive. She uses an A sound instead of an E sound, so Mimsy becomes Mimsay. I believe this style of singing is called belting, and it changes the closed vowel sounds, such as E and Oo, to more open vowel sounds to get more power behind them. My kudos to Stiles for this phenomenal performance. Now, onto the actual character. The problem I have with Mimsy is that she is entirely used as an Alistair lore dump and kinda walls the pacing of the episode. She shows up, yaps about how Alistair killed a bunch of past overlords, Alistair gets to demonstrate said power, and then she leaves and is only seen once more across both seasons in a very brief cameo. Alistair's history was covered much better by Rosie in Season 2, Episode 4, so to me, Mimsy adds next to nothing to the plot. I think this episode would have been a lot better if Mimsy was removed from it and we got more of Charlie and Lucifer, as that would give Lucifer more time to switch between helping Charlie and the hotel. With an extra scene between the two, we could have seen Lucifer's complacency slowly fade away as it's replaced with admiration for what his daughter wants to do, giving us a more natural flow into more than anything. Lucifer still has no faith in sinners, but because he has such a care for his daughter, he goes along with the idea of the hotel. I just wish this plot was given the time it deserved, instead of being swamped by the Mimsy B story. Masquerade showed us that Hazbin's writing is at its strongest when one story is given the room to shine, and I think that this episode would have been so much stronger with the focus on just one story. I suppose we'd lose out on the scene between Husk and Alistair, where Husk reveals that Alistair is also on a leash, but I think that could have been hinted at by Rosie in episode 7, or by Husk at some other point. It's also covered in Alistair's part in finale, so I think it would have been handled regardless. It's a shame that I can't say I like this episode as a whole, because I really do enjoy Lucifer as a character, and his rivalry with Alistair is a lot of fun. The Mimsy stuff just unfortunately drags this episode down so much. Anyway, on to episode 6 and our first look at Heaven.
Yay!
The fuck is this?
She's wasted. Just go with it.
Now, this episode is how you do multiple plots very effectively. I spent a bit of time last episode complaining about that, but the Charlie A plot and Cherry B plot work seamlessly here. I think it's because by default they're connected, whereas the Lucifer A plot and Mimsy B plot from last episode were very disconnected. The start of the episode introduces us to one of my favourite side characters, Cherry Bomb. She's a really good friend to Angel, and it's great to see that Angel has someone who looks out for him. Cherry and Angel are also a great example of a male-female relationship with nothing romantic between them. Cherry arrives by exploding the same wall that Pentious and the Loan Sharks took out previously, and I appreciate them actually acknowledging the ridiculousness of it always being the same wall that gets destroyed. Charlie facilitates Cherry and Angel's night out on the condition that Cherry takes Pentious, Nifty, and Husk with her too. Not sure where Alistair is in all of this, probably off on some outing. Regardless, Cherry and Vaggie make their way up to heaven and we get introduced to Sarah and Emily, the two high-ranking seraphims. Sarah is the older of the two and has a more reserved nature, and Emily is a lot bubblier and more excitable. I love Vaggie's face here when Charlie and Emily are holding hands. Following Welcome to Heaven, the group pass Adam and Loot, and after Adam tries to kick up a fuss, Loot calms him down and Sarah warns him. We learn that no one other than Sarah and the Exorcists know about the extermination, and that it was only allowed to protect Heaven when souls in Hell started empowering each other. Once at the hotel room, and after one of my favourite interactions between Charlie and Vaggie,
they had sprinkles made of rainbows!
Those are just rainbow sprinkles.
Charlie leaves to visit a zoo with Emily, and we get one of the biggest twists of the season. Vaggie used to be one of the Exorcist angels. Adam uses this against her, trying to get her back on his side, but she sticks by Charlie, thankfully. Speaking of Charlie, she's back, and she's armed with dictionary definitions instead of evidence of redemption. I do have to wonder what her actual plan was here if Adam didn't get involved. Was she just going to read dictionary definitions the entire time and be like, this word means the thing that it means, and we are doing this with sinners? Instead, we get a lovely connection between the two plot lines, with the Heaven cast watching the night out that Angel and others are on. At first, it goes a little downhill, but we do get a nice show of Husk's growth, with him quietly looking out for Angel, with Angel pretty torn to his dedication to his friend and to the hotel. It is really heartwarming to see Angel look out for Nifty. We saw this last episode very briefly, with Angel taking the knife off her, but we see it a lot more with him protecting her from the club scene and not wanting her to end up wasting away like he used to. It's really sweet. He looks out for her, stops her from stealing, and stands up to Val, something I was not expecting to see. This shows just how far he's come as a character. I also have a lot of respect for Cherry. She doesn't care about redemption herself, but is willing to support Angel on his journey. She understands his point of view, and we don't get a petty conflict. We also get some phenomenal comedy in this episode, with the rule of three executed very well.
Because I'm buying everyone a drink. Cherry, I bought you a shot. Because I bought everyone another shot.
I'm sorry, why would we have sex?
Because I'm having sex with everyone here.
Angel and Cherry's night out leads to conflict in Heaven, as Angel did everything on the list that Adam gave Charlie and Vaggie. You Didn't Know is one hell of a song. It starts out with Emily trying to convince Sarah that Angel deserves a second chance, with Charlie joining her. Loot's verse is phenomenal, and Jessica Vosk is such a talented singer, and along with Adam, tried to shut down Charlie and Emily. In doing so, Adam accidentally reveals the extermination to Emily. This gives me quite possibly my favourite shot in the entire season. Sarah's line of "do what was required." Her expression is kind and caring, but the flames in her eyes shows how Emily sees her in the moment. No better than those killing hundreds of sinners and casting misery to thousands more. This episode ends with the reveal to Charlie that Vaggie used to be an exorcist. I like the choice to reveal this to the viewer before Charlie, as it builds up a lot of suspense as a will they won't they type deal. The reveal is brutal, but Charlie doesn't even really get time to process it as Adam casts her and Vaggie back into hell. The final scene of this episode shows us a conversation between the two seraphims, with Sarah warning Emily not to question Heaven's rules, as if she does, she could end up fallen. I'll admit I'm very glad this isn't where her plot went in Season 2. However, I could see someone like Lute ending up being banished in Season 3 due to her actions across Season 2, especially if she tries to kill sinners on her own accord. While I don't have as much to say about this episode compared to some of the others in the season, it's still very good. The pacing feels natural, the two plots connect very well together, and comparing Cherry and Mimsy as two side characters that show up to advance the plot, it's pretty obvious which of the two is the better one. Alas, onto episode 7, Hello Rosie.
Before you found out about me, did you know angels could be harmed?
No.
What the fuck do you mean no, Vaggie? What? We literally saw that last episode you were harmed, and you are an angel. What a damn oversight. This has to have just been done for the plot. Episode 7. I'm going to split this one into the two plots instead of going through it scene by scene like I have done up to this point. Charlie and Alistair go off to see Rosie to get her cannibals, and Vaggie goes to Carmilla to get more weapons and to learn how to fight the angels. We'll start with the first scene that kickstarts the two plots and then cover each in turn. Charlie's upstairs crying over Vaggie hiding the fact that she's an angel, and Hazbin Angel being kind of annoyed at the pair since everything they do fails. We get more Alistair snark, and I love his animation on the bed here. It's really endearing. He explains to Charlie why he always smiles and sets the episode into motion through a deal. He asks for
one favor at a time of my choosing where you harm no one.
Alistair takes Charlie to Cannibal Town to meet Rosie, a fellow overlord and the leader of the cannibals, to enlist them for help to fend off the Exorcist attack. Across all of these scenes between Alistair, Charlie, Rosie, and the cannibals, I love how at no point Charlie is actually the one that says something that helps. She's panicky and still a bit of a mess, and says a lot but doesn't actually achieve much. Alistair, however, says one line, and suddenly people are on their side. This is showed best in the song Ready for This. The cannibals are only on Charlie's side after Alistair's line,
"And feast on all the angels you can eat."
Charlie is tasked with convincing the cannibals, which, due to Susan, is not an easy task. I like the cute nod to the pilot here, with Charlie singing I Have a Dream, the first line from her song Inside Every Demon is a Rainbow from the pilot, before losing it and screaming at Susan. Rosie calls for a brief intermission, taking Charlie backstage and helping her work through her relationship problems. Honestly, this is one of my favourite scenes in the entire show. Rosie and Charlie's talk here is very heartfelt. Rosie lets Charlie do most of the talking and helps confront her, but in a way that lets Charlie come to her own conclusions. She's asking Charlie questions in a way that lets Charlie form her own thoughts about Vaggie and understand that their relationship is meaningful and that Vaggie's actions speak much louder than her words. While I haven't spoke much about the music yet, since I've more been looking at what the songs stand for, I think Ready for This is going to be the song where I let my music theory brain take over, and I'm just going to nerd out about music for a bit. The songs in the show are written by Sam Haft, one half of the Living Tombstone, so the talent is very clearly there. I grew up occasionally listening to their FNAF songs, and have the chorus of Die in a Fire pretty permanently burned into my brain. Anyway, Ready for This. While Poison is my favourite song in Season 1, I think Ready for This is the best musically. It's written in a very similar style to the golden age of musical theatre. Think Oklahoma, Sound of Music, and Mary Poppins. That sort of sound. We start out with a quiet piano intro that reminds me of one perfect moment from the musical Bring It On, especially once we get into the next section of the song where we switch into 12/8 time, the piano having these lovely triplet subdivisions.
From the front, gotta come into my own.
This section of the song has the build-up we need. Charlie is building up to something big. We have a key and rhythm change together and break into what is quite possibly the most iconic rhythm in all of musical theatre. We have this fun, bouncy umpa, umpa, umpa duplet division rhythm, akin to 76 trombones or supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, to name a couple. Charlie's vocals here are also lovely. She's doing what I believe is called speak singing, where sometimes parts of her lines are more spoken than sung, but they still fit to the song either way.
Join up now if you like travel. Come on, boys, hop in the saddle.
Our next section goes back to the triplet divisions and sounds almost like it's swung. Swing, however, uses duplet divisions. Here, we're emphasizing the first and third beat in each triplet. Take a listen. So we're going 1 and 2 and so on, just faster. The rest of the song pretty much uses a combination of the previously mentioned subdivisions, more piano triplets, and a perfect demonstration from Erica Henningsen, Charlie's VA, of why she's a Broadway singer.
I can come into my own, and I think I've always known
The D5 that she hits on the word known is what is considered the highest note that someone with her vocal range needs to be able to belt, and my god does Henningsen hit it well. We end with some ensemble vocals from the Cannibals, while Rosie, Alistair, and then Charlie sing. I love the chromatic descent with the ahs in the background here. They're wonderful and they help the song sound so much more complete. And Alistair joining the ensemble during Rosie's line. The song ends in a very stereotypical musical way too, with a chromatic descent leading into a resolution with the orchestral dun da 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 dun. God, this song is just instrumentally perfect. It nails the switches between 12/8 and 4/4 time. Henningsen's vocals are bold and brassy and beautiful, and it all comes together perfectly. Ready for this is the perfect Hazbin Hotel song. Now onto the weaker half of the episode, Maggie and Carmilla. We technically got a scene of them together in episode 3 with the duet of More Than Anything, so I think that it makes sense for Vaggie to be the one to go to Carmilla, and it's interesting to see the two of them actually interact, especially since Carmilla knows that Vaggie was an exorcist. There's a few small details that I like, one of them being that once Vaggie mentions how she's not used to fighting with her long hair, Carmilla also lets her hair down to prove to Vaggie that it is just a skill issue. And Out for Love is a damn wonderful song, and shows Daphne Rubin Vega's voice at its best. I mean this with no shade to Rubin Vega, but I really don't think her voice fitted whatever it takes. She's very clearly a talented singer, and I think her voice is at its best when she's singing in songs that have this Spanish flamenco influence, such as her parts in Respectless and here in Out for Love. Fuel yourself with the fear of losing that somebody who's your reason to live. Now onto the stuff I don't like. Vaggie, what do you mean you didn't know angels could be harmed? You were literally harmed as an angel by an angelic weapon. I don't know why you needed Carmilla to tell you this. The how to fight angels I can understand, since I doubt Vaggie would have known the weaknesses in her own fighting style. But she absolutely knows she isn't this immortal being that can't be touched by anything. Everything with Vaggie here, bar the few things that I've just specified, are all there to drive the plot forward, and it ends up just making Vaggie look stupid. It's a shame because the Charlie stuff in this episode is genuinely really good, but Vaggie weighs it down. I do like the conclusion too though, and it really shows how far all the hotel cast have come since the first couple of episodes. They're all working together as a team, and it's really nice to see. With that all said, it's on to the last episode of Season 1, the fight between heaven and hell.
Well, your first wife didn't seem to hate what I had to offer. Or the second.
I'll be honest, I don't know how much stuff I really have to say about this episode. We get some cute Husker Du stuff, the knowledge that Vox is watching everything happen without joining in, coward, that Velvet and Valentino don't really share the same distaste for Alistair that Vox does, and a really beautiful scene between Vaggie and Charlie with the More Than Anything reprise. This is just a personal thing, but I'm just not that big of a fan of big fight scenes, and the majority of this episode is exactly that. I'll focus on the key parts. First, Adam and Alistair. Alistair waits for some of the exorcists to arrive before casting a giant shield, trapping the first wave inside and the remainder of them out of the way. And we also get a look at how much of a dick Adam is, further showing the flaws of Heaven's rules. Which is the point. Heaven is flawed.
I am so hard right now!
Thanks for sharing, Vox. TMI though. Adam and Alistair fight, with Alistair being on top at first, but that doesn't last long, and we get another reaction YouTuber-esque cutaway to Vox. We get a Vaggie and Lute scene, where Lute is absolutely still on top, but thanks to Camilla's training, Vaggie is holding her own somewhat. I love the rivalry between these two, mostly because it's the most Vaggie gets to feel like her own character. I also love the brutality of the shot of Lute ripping her own arm off. And the fact that it's done in the same style as when Lute stabbed Vaggie's eye out is a nice callback. And Vaggie giving Lute mercy is a show of her growth as a character. We get Pentious' confession to Cherry and his self-sacrifice, which is a pretty funny moment in the episode, all things considered. It does pretty expertly show the way that Adam and Charlie view a soul in hell though, with Adam just brushing it off as nothing, and Charlie seeming genuinely distraught by the loss of Pentious. This also leads Charlie into proving herself to actually be a good leader under pressure, and is defending her people well by stepping up to face Adam after Alistair and Pentious couldn't. Lucifer steps in and keeps his goofy energy alive with all of his transformations, and by getting in Adam's head. He threatens to fuck Adam.
Well, this just got interesting.
It's fuck you up, Dad.
And after saving Charlie, the two of them take down Adam, giving him mercy following Charlie's request, which he is thrilled about. He has his little self-entitled speech about how great he thinks he is, and then...
Nifty!
Now, all throughout Season 1, Nifty has been used mostly as comic relief, so I think her killing Adam is probably the best way that could have happened. There's a lovely contrast here with Pentious' death. One was acting selfless, and the other was monologuing selfishly about how great he is. The selfless one is getting a memorial and honoured, while as we'll see in Season 2, no one really seems to care that Adam is dead aside from Lute. Finale is your typical end-all song, with all the characters getting their role. We see that Lucifer is now fully on board with the hotel, and is doing his best to help out. The V's are planning to take over Hell while they're in this weakened state, in a classic dictator move, and we discover that Alistair lived, and through his section of the song, we learn that he made a deal that he is desperate to get out of. Oh, and at this one line of the song,
Great Alistair, altruist, died for his friends,
made a good portion of the fandom think that altruist was Alistair's surname. I love how frustrated Husk and Lucifer look when Alistair returns, and if you listen closely too, you can hear Lucifer say, "Ah, this guy."
and we're doing it with a smile.
I love the little details like that. Also, Val, how do you make out with the TV? It's a flat screen? That can't be enjoyable. Last couple of things to mention. We see that Sir Pentious was redeemed. Emily looks thrilled, and Sarah looks almost traumatized. And Lilith is in heaven, apparently. We get a short scene of Lute talking to her about some deal she made that has changed now that Adam is dead. A really big plot point that I'm sure will get developed next season. Oh, it doesn't? What? Never mind then. Overall, I did enjoy Season 1 a lot. It was a fun watch with charming characters and very interesting relationships that naturally developed and let the characters grow. Obviously, I do have my issues with it, namely Mimsy and the stupidity of Vaggie in Episode 7, but I don't think it's by any means a bad show. 8 out of 10. And since I forgot to put the Pocket Play on charge, there's not going to be a quiz this video. Instead, at the end, I'll do a ranking of every song and one for every episode, from my least favourite to my favourite. On with Season 2!
I have 3 tormenting tonics, 4 virgin sacrifice pina coladas, and something called a harder daddy.
Oh, that one's for me.
The first episode from Season 2 is a really nice continuation from the first season, which it kind of had to be, considering I believe it was originally going to be the last episode of the first season, before Prime fucked them over. We see where the hotel sits now. People have misinterpreted the hotel as the place to go to kill angels, the opposite of what Charlie wants. Before I get into talking about the episode itself, I'd just like to briefly mention how much better this season looks visually. The colours all seem a lot more vibrant and saturated. I think this is especially noticeable on Alistair and Vaggie. They have so much more life in them this season. Following a segment from 666 News, now owned by VoxTac, we get to see the hotel. Vaggie is the new front of house, with Charlie still processing Pentious' loss. Alistair is being his usual snarky self, and him and Lucifer are still having their little play fights. These two care about each other so much, they just don't realise it yet. Alistair very much still seems butthurt about nearly being killed by Adam, with him seeming almost uncomfortable that the hotel is working, since it isn't his work that made it succeed. Back to the best characters, Angel and Husk. These two are just great together now that they've worked through their initial conflicts. I'd also like to point out Angel's outfit change between seasons. His season 1 outfit looks a lot less comfy than this one, and I think this is us getting to see the difference between Angel Dust and Anthony. It feels like we're really seeing Angel for who he actually is here, and he has a lot better control of his persona too. It's really sweet to see. I also love his interaction with Cherry here. They're super sweet together, and as I said a little bit ago, it's really sweet to see Angel have such a supportive friend. Charlie finally leaves the lounge and very quickly gets overwhelmed by the swarm of reporters and their intrusive questions. Vaggie steps in to help her, and Charlie encounters the new addition to the hotel cast, Baxter. He's a scientist.
Mad scientist.
This also quite nicely leads us into the first song of the episode, Hazbin Guarantee. I don't have too much to say about this part of the song other than the fact that I love how concerned Baxter looks throughout it. A little later in the episode we get a really sweet scene between Lucifer and Charlie where we get to see the dynamic between the two. I love the rendition of More Than Anything that plays in the background here as Lucifer does his best to advise Charlie. The conversation they have about Lilith is sweet, with Lucifer telling Charlie that her mother would have been proud of her. Charlie leaves her a voicemail, which is going to be a reoccurring thing throughout the season, and then we have Charlie stand up to the sinners in the hotel. It's really good to see her stand up for herself, and the cut to the hotel cast is sweet, since we see them all smiling. They're supportive of her and her idea of redemption more than ever. The next scene we get with any of the hotel cast is between Charlie and Vaggie on the rooftop of the hotel. Vaggie is being super supportive here and taking some of the weight off of Charlie, and Vaggie's more grounded approach is very helpful here. Throughout the episode, we have also seen that Vaggie is wanting to change her name, since she still associates her current one with Adam, and wants to get away from that. So why am I still calling her Vaggie? Because the writing team decided that doing this name change as a season-long joke would be a good idea, changing it from Vaggie with an IE to Vaggie with just an I. From a writing perspective, I get it. You don't want to have an entire fanbase learn a new name for one of your core characters. However, I'm just really disappointed that this was turned into a joke. As a trans person myself, picking a name that fitted me was not an easy task. It just feels like it's such an insult to have the show treat this like a joke. There's ways to have the name stay the same and have it be handled respectfully too. For example, having Vaggie come to terms with her past and accept that it's part of her she's actively working on. I mean, hell, not every trans person drastically changes their name. For example, names like Alex are gender neutral, and some names can have 1 or 2 letters changed to become a different name. Think Tyler to Taylor, or Andrew to Andrea. It's genuinely just really frustrating to me that something that, if given the time to be explored, could have been a beautiful arc for Vaggie this season, but was reduced to a joke. Anyway, it's time for the V's to steal the show. Their part of this first song, Trust Us, is fantastic, and shows them taking advantage of a sinner and disposing of her once she's of no use to them anymore. And I will also never not be mad at Vox for not exposing himself here when he forced the sinner to. Also, Joel Perez, Val's VA, has a phenomenal voice, and I'm so glad he got more roles in songs this season. I also love this jab at Toxic Gossip Train here. It's also interesting to me that the very ending of this song does kinda hint at Vox's arc throughout the season. It's really good foreshadowing that helps everything to do with him feel a lot more natural. The key scenes with the V's in this episode show the three of them in a meeting, with Vox explaining to the others about his plan to take over Heaven, and to talk about the way the V's have been acting in public. One of these is a really fun callback to Respectless, and the other is going to set me up for another rant. Now, earlier I said that I appreciated the way that Medrano and her team portrayed Angel Dust in Masquerade. However, this little montage of Angel just being hit is just so not it. This is so disrespectful in contrast to how he was handled in Season 1, and treating him like a punching bag here, it annoys me so much. This montage was unneeded, and all it does is portray sex workers as dumb, something that Masquerade did not do. Pick a side, Hazbin writers. Onto the Heaven plot. Vox reveals how he plans to spin the Hazbin Hotel's reputation to start a hell-wide uprising and take on Heaven. He has some vaguely familiar sketches in here too. How curious. Anyway, his plan makes sense, right?
I know you won't believe this, but I don't understand.
Honestly, Val makes some great points here. I don't think how they'll actually get up to Heaven is something you can just boil down to semantics, Vox. Also, I only noticed this while writing the script for this section, but I love that the motif for Breiter features in the background here when Vox talks about his time on Earth. I also appreciate Vox refusing to call his cult a cult, which is accurate to real-world cult leaders. They prefer to see their work as a movement or an influential group. Little details like this are lovely. And here's our second song, Once We Get Up There. Remember this following motif as you'll be hearing it a lot this season.
Once we get up there and snag that angelic throne.
I love this song. It's reminiscent of Be Prepared from The Lion King visually, and I mean that in the best way possible. This song perfectly sets up the V's motives this season. I also love that Velvet and Valentino aren't fully convinced by Vox's plan right away. It feels a lot more realistic for them both, especially Val, who seems to be the smartest of the trio if the questioning from earlier is anything to go by, to not be on board with something this ambitious right away. I also love this Steal the Moon-esque ending shot. How despicable. I also like the detail that the V's now have control over 666 News, as it shows just how much their influence has grown. The few frames where they flash Hate Charlie on the screen is very brainwashy cultish, and Charlie getting annoyed at the ending broadcast makes a lot of sense here. We see Vaggie calm her down, with Charlie accepting that she shouldn't play into the news and should just focus on herself and the hotel. Oh, how I wish that was what happened with her arc in this season, but we'll have more than enough chance to talk about that soon enough. Overall, this was a decent start to the season. I did think that this episode felt a little bit slow at points, but it is a good continuation from the first season. And with that, Emily portals to update Charlie on the situation from Heaven's side, which we'll move on to now, with our next episode, Storyteller. Storyteller as an episode was something that I wasn't expecting, but I am very glad we got. A full episode set in Heaven, so we get to see in depth their response and reaction to everything. Heaven knows about the exterminations, Pentious was redeemed, Adam is dead, the lot of it. The episode begins with Pentious on trial, since pretty much everyone aside from Emily wants to deny redemption existing. However, at the hearing, it's pretty clear that a lot of people were also annoyed at Sarah for hiding the extermination. After Lute says her piece with a rendition of her song Gravity playing in the background, and Sarah lets her anger rise, we are introduced to the Speaker of God, the highest power in all of Heaven. She's pretty. Anyway, throughout Pentious' story, Sarah learns that what he did atoned for his sins and finally accepts that he was redeemed. Lute, understandably, is very unhappy about this, and again she gets Gravity behind her, which does really help the song hit a lot harder later in the episode. The score here is phenomenal. We learn that Abel was put in charge of the Exorcist army, and that Lute had told Lilith to stop Charlie, which is the only continuation we get of that little interaction at the end of Season 1. After the hearing, Emily is assigned to make sure that Pentious has the best possible first day in Heaven. Emily does what she can to try and make Pentious happy, but throughout the little scene before it and the song Like You, it's apparent that Emily doesn't really understand the concept of happiness past very basic things. She tries with sugar, cute animals, and later ice cream, but all Pentious wants is to see his friends in hell again, which sadly can't happen. Oh hey, is that Angel Dust's sister? I think this might be the closest together that two songs are too, as within a minute of Like You, we get Sarah's confession. This is a song between Sarah and the Speaker of God, where Sarah is reflecting on her actions and how there is blood on her hands from allowing the exterminations, when instead she could have been trying to save the souls in hell. The speaker doesn't make any choices for Sarah, instead empowering her to speak with her own voice, as opposed to letting fear guide her choices. I love the little things like Sarah humanizing the souls in hell by calling them sons and daughters. Envy's aside, this shows how even if they sinned, she still views them as just as valuable as she does a soul in heaven. Also, it took me so long to work out the time signature to parts of this song. It doesn't quite feel like typical 12/8, and that's because in the speaker's first part, and from the line, "You speak of choices made by other voices," every fourth bar is 9/8. It gives the song this almost ethereal feel, which considering the two characters singing it, makes sense. I think we'll just keep things moving and go right into the third song. Yeah, you heard that right. Third song of the episode. Gravity. Now, I'm hoping I don't get murdered by the fandom for saying this, but this isn't the best song of the episode. I love Sarah's confession far too much. Gravity, however, is still a phenomenal villain song. It perfectly builds up Lute as an antagonist. Her motives are clear and all make sense, and she's going to go back down to hell and exterminate every single soul. She wants nothing more than revenge. I also adore this visual of her in front of the spotlight. Jessica Vosk's vocals are damn incredible, and I am so glad she got this song. I mentioned her briefly when I talked about You Didn't Know earlier, but this is the song that does Vosk's vocal talent justice. The gravel in her voice on the last word of the song is so impressive. I also think that parts of this are hinting at Lute having a thing for Adam, the only soul that's ever completed you, and the thing that Lute wanted to tell the Adam in her head before the song actually started. It makes sense. The Exorcists were created to serve Adam, and Adam would absolutely be taking advantage of that power dynamic. And I love the little detail of Lute scaring Abel so badly that he flies into the wall. Last couple of things for the episode. Emily shows Pentious to his room in heaven, where she's drawn a little thing of each of his friends. I particularly like the detail that since she's never actually seen Alistair, she doesn't know what he looks like past a dear demon. And finally, Sarah makes the choice to put heaven into lockdown. She accepts that Lute is right about some of hell wanting revenge, but doesn't want to command the exorcist to exterminate. She is buying herself more time before doing anything too drastic. This episode ends with Emily portaling down to hell to update Charlie on the situation, which syncs our timelines up. This episode felt a lot better paced than the first, and was a nice break from the hotel cast too. I think getting an in-depth look at how Heaven is responding to all of these new developments was very important. And I think that it's very powerful to see things like Sarah, one of the highest people in all of Heaven, admit to wrongdoing. Really good episode overall. Let's hope it continues getting better as the season goes on.
I shouldn't have said nothing. Help, I'm stuck! Or whatever.
Episode 3 picks up right where the first two episodes leave off, with us getting the second half of Charlie's scream. She's found out that redemption is possible, and that Pentious is in heaven. Incredible! After forgetting to breathe, Charlie manages to tell the main hotel cast about her new findings, who react well.
I thought Charlie said no more drugs.
She's very understandably bubbly and overexcited, and I appreciate Vaggie remaining calm and doing her best to keep Charlie grounded. Charlie, however, is far too far gone at this point, and reaches out to Vox, inviting him to the hotel. After a cute scene between Angel, Husk, and Cherry, Vox and Velvet arrive at the hotel. They interview Charlie, more answering for her than letting her speak. Charlie announces Pentious' redemption to them, but since she doesn't have any proof, Vox doesn't buy it. Clearly under pressure, Charlie says that she'll redeem someone tonight, on the condition that Vox films it so everyone can see what the hotel really is. She doesn't understand that Vox doesn't want to side with her. Following a scene between Cherry and Baxter,
we were partners.
Oh! So you were like...
What? Lab partners!
Where we learn Pentious' history in hell, we get Piss, a love song. The duet between Pentious and Cherry is lovely, with the two instrumentations blending together perfectly. Pentious has this lovely harpsichord, with Cherry having an electric guitar and a much more punk sound. The instrumentation of the song to me directly depicts the relationship between Pentious and Cherry. The two tones start off very separate, blending together a little more in the Turf War verse, before uniting into one sound for the final chorus. I also adore Pentious' harmonies in the line "Can You Feel Me Falling" and the last few lines of the song. Take a listen.
Can you feel me falling? Though I don't know if it's love. Could this be love? I know I tried to kill you, and you tried to kill me too.
Back to Charlie, and she's currently undoing some of her development from Season 1, completely overstepping Angel's boundaries and disregarding his concerns. However, it's more Husk than Charlie that convinces Angel to endure Charlie's bullshit, though I can't fully blame Husk. He meant well, as shown by the loser baby motif in the background as he talks, and Angel only actually agrees to this after Vox tries his little hypno eye thing. Anyway, Song 2 of the episode, Speedrun to Redemption. This is the perfect Charlie song for this season. She's disregarding everyone around her to care for her own goals. She doesn't understand how redemption works, but refuses to admit that, throwing everything at the wall and praying that something sticks. This builds to her tying Husk to the train tracks, acting as the
diabolical daily do-bad!
and trying to trick fate into letting Angel sacrifice himself, recreating Pentious' redemption arc. Vox does a little bit of trolling, making it so there was actual danger, and once Vaggie saves them last minute, we get an argument between Husk and Angel, which makes sense, but I'll cover it more in depth in episode 6 when I talk more about the pair. It does, however, highlight how cold and calculating Vox and Velvet are. This episode to me is the start of Vox's takeover of Hell. Shortly before leaving, Vox asks Charlie a question.
Do you think I could be redeemed?
This is a theme that I really wish was developed more. It's such a fascinating concept. Charlie isn't even thinking about the sinners that might not ever want to be redeemed. Sadly, it's another thing in this season that just has so much untapped potential and is instead probably thrown on the pile of setups ready for Season 3. I suppose the theme gets a brief mention in episode 6 after Losing Streak, but that's all, sadly. We get the Angel Dust trauma dump, where Vox reveals that he murdered his father. And we get what, in my opinion, is the single most valid crash out of the entire series. Angel is very rightfully angry at Charlie here, and I fully understand his point. There's only so many times Charlie can apologize for things before it starts to feel disingenuous, and Charlie is definitely hitting that limit now. It's unfortunate, as her character in Season 1 grew in really clever ways, with her using the lessons in the hotel to educate herself as well as the sinners, the one on boundaries springing to mind. In Masquerade last season, Charlie overstepped Angel's boundaries, which led to him getting hurt. In response to this, she educated herself on boundaries. Here, that development seems to have completely vanished, and if anything, she's worse than she was before. Cherry, however, does understand boundaries, as seen with the very short ending scene between her and Angel. She respects Angel's want not to talk about his day, and instead offers quiet comfort. She's such a good friend to Angel, and again, I'm just so glad he has someone. I said it at the end of last episode too, but let's hope it improves from here.
Please, Rosie. I need this. My staff is kinda broken. I live in a hotel. I want to get the fuck out!
Episode 4. We finally get to see more Alistair. He's such a fun character. He has a little dispute with Lucifer, where we see that Lucifer has a complete inability to remember anyone's name, which does show his apathy towards sinners pretty well. After refusing to use a coaster, Alistair quits the hotel and goes to visit Rosie in Cannibal Town. Here, we learn about the deal Alistair made. It was with Rosie, and Alistair was promised to be the strongest sinner in all of hell, and he is very much not happy that he got his ass kicked by Adam. We get to see more about his time alive too. Creole in 1920s America, and working his ass off to get his own radio show. Oh yeah, and he was also a murderer, killing people who disrespected him. Take this pompous man, for example, who laughed off spilling wine on Alistair, almost certainly just because he isn't white. He summons Rosie, and this is when he makes his deal. We cut back to the current day and get our first song of the episode, Don't You Forget. This is a wonderful song. Rosie's VA, Leslie Kritzer, is another of the cast with a musical theatre background, playing Serena in Legally Blonde. We had a little of her voice in Ready for This last season, but Don't You Forget feels a lot more like her song.
I say when to sit and stay, roll over or go fetch.
This song pretty perfectly showcases Alistair's arrogance, as something I noticed while watching this is that a lot of the things that Rosie does to him, such as touching his hair, calling him a pet, he very clearly hates. However, these are things that he does to Husk, someone whose soul he owns. He loves his power and he loves having others know how powerful he is, yet the second someone can challenge that, he hates it. Also, I have to question why Rosie cares about the hotel. We don't get to learn what her end of the deal she made with Alistair was, but I feel like it has to involve the hotel and or Charlie in some aspect. Following the song, we see the peak of Alistair's arrogance, with him trying to find a way out of his deal with Rosie. I like the detail of the stayed gone motif in the background here, very subtly foreshadowing his way out. Following this, he goes to the entertainment district and directly calls out Vox. This fight scene is incredible. We start with Alistair somehow managing to hold his own against all three of the Vs before Nifty sees the fight on the news and brings in Huskin herself as backup. Looking at Vox first, I absolutely adore that his little voltage burst when he teleports is in the shape of a V. His hypno eye trick doesn't seem to work on Alistair either, since he's absolutely using it in this fight, but it's doing nothing. I also adore the way that this shot of him looks, with the screen and mouth colours swapped. It makes him look so much more menacing. Velvet has some cool powers here too, and it's nice to see her shine. The pole turning into a bow is neat, and when she's fighting Husk, we get to see her use her phone to guide knives and Hell's version of emojis. Some pretty neat powers, and we'll get to see more of them later on in the season. Valentino, however, doesn't really use much in the way of demon powers, settling for the red mist and his guns. The main thing I want to talk about with Val, however, is in this little POV shot we get of him. Outside of his glasses, his vision is very blurry. I've said it a lot, but I just adore the little details like this. I have to wonder if Valentino's main weapons being smoke and guns is a nod to the idea of a smoking gun, that being the key evidence that proves a crime. Might be a little too far-fetched, but you never know. Husk also has some interesting powers, mostly revolving around carnival magic tricks, such as the bouquet from the hat or the magic box, or casino items such as playing cards and loaded dice, as we'll see in a later episode. I love the dice. Loaded dice in our world are something that are used to rig dice rolls. Husk, however, has loaded them with explosives. Classy. Lastly, Alistair. I adore the detail of the deer screech after Vox pulls the stitches off of him. After his shadow manipulation doesn't go to plan and Velvet and Valentino get the best of Husk and Nifty respectively, Alistair stops the fight. It's pretty telling that he only calls it off when his team are about to get hurt. He absolutely cares about them despite what he'll claim. Alistair makes a deal with Vox, joining his team, and in return, Vox has to let Husk and Nifty go and isn't allowed to lay his hands on Charlie. After a full day of celebrating, we get to see Vox and Alistair interact without the threat of death. The expression work on Vox and Alistair here is phenomenal. I think it might be some of my favourite animation in the entire show. Vox's expression slipping when Alistair said that he respected him, and Alistair's face as he says inspiring is just, God, it's such a detailed expression that perfectly illustrates that while he is Vox's prisoner on paper, Alistair is far from powerless. We get the Vox and Alistair backstory, and it is brutal.
I said no and now he's pissy, that's the tea. Oh, you're serious! I knew you
you could be pathetic at times, but I didn't realize you were so weak.
What?
However, I think that Alistair said no because he was scared Vox was approaching his power level. And as we know, Alistair has to be the strongest sinner in hell. Following this, we get the Don't You Forget reprise, where we see Vox steal more ideas from people and reuse his old motifs. This song, of course, uses the instrumentation and lyrical patterns from Don't You Forget, but then the final verse also has elements of Once We Get Up There and Stayed Gone in. It really is true what Alistair says. Vox does get so much of his stuff from other people. Alistair, again, steals the show here, and he hints at what his long-term plan for making this deal is.
Your unwilling audience when you lose your marbles in Act 3.
Get in Vox's head and break the whole thing apart from the inside. One other detail in the song I love comes from this clip here, and this, to my knowledge, is the only time we see any form of Alistair not smiling. His shadow here, as Vox electrocutes him, has a frown.
You two should just fuck already.
Also, Val, I agree with you. The sexual tension between these two is mental. And there's episode 4, a really good episode about Alistair and Vox that sets up the second half of the season with absolutely no B-plot whatsoever. Okay, I've avoided it long enough. Charlie sucks in this episode. We got the point in episode 3. She's naive and doesn't get that the V's are never going to help her. All she does here is continue to disregard everyone around her who is trying to tell her otherwise. Vaggie told her not to play into it in episode 1, and she accepted that, and then did it anyway. She invited the V's into the hotel and made a fool of herself, and here it's just more of the same. She completely disregards Vaggie, goes on 666 News, and continues to make a fool of herself and the hotel. She literally acknowledged that Vox messed with her words, and then proceeds to say,
I think sinners deserve the extermination because they're bad people.
It's just tiring and frustrating to say. All it feels like she does in this episode is take up screen time and weaken the other characters. Like, I think all of Charlie's stuff in this episode could have been removed without us missing out on anything. In place of it, give us a scene between Angel and Cherry that continues on from the last episode. Or maybe a scene between Baxter and Nifty, since Baxter hasn't got to do anything yet aside from be a plot device, which is sadly all he is this entire season. Nifty is the one redeeming factor about the Charlie scenes in this episode. Clean It Up is one of my favourite songs, and her in the middle of the song switching to Japanese to help differently is one of my favourite jokes in the entire series. However, I think we could have got this scene at the hotel in a scene with Baxter too, to help properly set up their relationship for the last episode of the season, instead of it happening entirely in background gags and the occasional roach. However, I will defend Charlie in one aspect. She is a pretty decent main character. In season 1, she does actively try to do things to paint her hotel and sinners in the best way possible. She has the meeting in heaven, where she shows that sinners could be good, and the only reason I believe the exterminations weren't stopped right there and then, when Adam revealed them publicly, was because Sarah was doubting herself. Season 2, however, has her playing into the hands of the villain a lot more, which I can forgive in episode 3, since that was the first instance of it really happening. However, episode 4 being more of the same, especially with Vaggie and Angel making it very clear to her that the V's are trying to make her look bad, it just feels so poor. She is actively still trying to do stuff, I'll give her that, but it's just she knows that she's not going to get anywhere with it, yet keeps trying and trying and trying, and all it does is weaken the rest of the cast around her, since they aren't getting the chance to do anything. Episode 4 just paints Charlie as completely incompetent, and it really ruined what was otherwise a good episode.
So I've had a stroke, it's true.
Whoa, starting with a song? That's a new one, and I vibe with that creative choice. It's the first time an episode has done this, and it's also, as Prick says, the first time Power has shifted this fast. Bad With Us is up there as one of my favourites from the season. It shows Vox going around and recruiting the other overlords by playing into their music tastes. Club for Zizi, Orchestral for Maestro, Spaghetti Western for Prick and Hatchet, Racial Stereotype for Carmilla. I adore how ashamed Val looks in the background here. This song is also the first of many times where we see Velvet and Valentino get noticeably annoyed with Vox. Oh god, and the line lives rent-free in my head 24/7. I also love Velvet and Valentino's backing vocals towards the start of the song. They just please my brain so much. Meanwhile, Charlie has switched her focus to the Angels, something which makes a lot more sense than continually throwing herself at the V's without any luck. And the Angels being naive enough to think that an apology would be enough for Hell to forgive them makes a lot more sense. As Loot aside, they haven't actually seen what's been happening in Hell in full. Vaggie makes her way up to see Lucifer to ask him about stopping Vox, and on the way we learn that Angel has a headache. This will be important later. By the way, that's all he gets in this episode. We also get a sneak peek at how Husk runs therapy too. Honestly, I don't really care for this scene, it just feels like a sorry excuse to get Baxter in some more. So far this season, he's not really done anything other than be a plot device or just comic relief. And sadly, I just don't think Baxter's that funny here. Parroting what Husk says is just, I don't know, it just doesn't do anything for me. Anyway, onto Lucifer. He reveals to Vanastasia that he cannot actually harm sinners, which does make his apathy towards them make a lot more sense. He's been forced to watch people take his gift of free will and misuse it since the start of Hell. I feel like if I was in his position, I would have also stopped trying to see the good in people a long time ago. Regardless, Vanuki manages to convince Lucifer to help out by mentioning that she would have gone to Alistair instead. Meanwhile, the Angels are discussing about what to do. Emily wants to go down and talk to Charlie. Sarah is more noticeably afraid here, which makes sense, since the last time Hell started uprising, she allowed the exterminations. Loot is still being moody, and her smashing her head into the table here is about how I felt watching Charlie last episode. Oh, and Abel is still in the background, fitting for his character, but similar to Baxter, I just don't really think he's justified his existence as a character in the season yet. I also really appreciate the little callback to It Starts With Sorry that Pentious has here. It's a cute nod to what helped him get to heaven in the first place. Onto the rally. Backstage, Alistair is getting into Vox's head some more, and we get a much more noticeable sign that Valentino is starting to get frustrated with Vox.
Sure. Babe.
Glad to see Alistair's plan unfolding. Valentino also has another banger line here.
And they're 10s, plus 1/8 for diversity. Good man.
The fact that we can actually see the 8 in question during Vox Populi is incredible. Her dance is slightly off sync to the others, and she looks a little different. I adore this diva. Speaking of Vox Populi, Vox heads out on stage and is quickly interrupted by Lucifer, starting the song. I absolutely love Lucifer's part in this song, and I'm not alone in that. It's to the point that his part of the song was uploaded to Spotify separately a few weeks after the season aired due to its popularity, along from one other snippet from a later song that I've not got to yet. I particularly love Lucifer's little ding ding, and the way he sings spooky. He really is just a goofy guy. Lucifer threatens Vox, who doesn't seem the slightest bit afraid. How peculiar. I absolutely adore Vox in this episode, and personally, I think it's his best showing. After Lucifer has had his little section in Vox Populi, he takes over. Pay particular attention to the shots of the song that show the crowd. There's some lovely visual work here with the colour of them changing from red to blue. They're red during Lucifer's verse, slowly changing to purple, and then Vox's iconic blue as Vox sings. I also adore the way that some of the visuals throughout this song look too, such as this shot of Vox standing in front of Lucifer in a way that makes it look like the wings are his. Hell, even his suit seems very similar to Lucifer's. White, twin tails, they both even have a bow tie. Vox's lack of originality continues. I will, however, give him a lot of credit for his ability to remain charismatic and spin things. This is especially noticeable in the short spoken section of the song, where Vox reveals that he knows Lucifer can't hurt sinners, and also in the scene between Vox Populi and Vox Dei, where Charlie and the Angels arrive.
You are apologizing for genocide with gift baskets?
Honestly, yeah. Bad move from the Angels here, though I don't think they really know what they're up against. Vox doesn't want to forgive Heaven. He will never want to forgive Heaven. The crowd is at its bluest here too, only next turning red when Vox shows the Angel's photos from the extermination. However, this red is a lot harsher than before and comes from the crowd's anger, not from their faith in Charlie. Following Sarah's little outburst, we get Vox Day, a song for the longest time I thought was named Vox DEI, after the diversity, equity, and inclusion policy. Even Vox doesn't care what sinners follow him, as long as they fall in line. Vox officially declares war on Heaven and mimics Sarah's wings in a show of his power, and on originality. The choir in the background of the song repeat praise Vox over and over, and we see the full extent of his influence, and how he has managed to get everyone in that crowd on his side. Vox also calls himself the Führer here, a word which means a strong outburst of emotion, and a word that coincidentally sounds very similar to Führer, the word a certain German dictator of the past liked to call himself. Oh, and to any other British English speakers watching this, we spell the word like this, and pronounce it Führere. I imagine this is why a good portion of the fandom thought Vox was calling himself the Führer and not a Führer. Confused? Me too. Either way, the double entendre, intentional or not, is very clever. Vox is winning and Charlie is not taking it well. We have an argument that is honestly kind of painful to watch, with Charlie continuing to just disregard those around her, lashing out at both Vaggie and Lucifer, driving them away. It's just frustrating to watch. I feel like we're watching an argument where we're expected to side with the person very clearly in the wrong. I haven't really spoke much about Vaggie at all this season, and that's because Charlie has been disregarding her so much that we haven't really got to see anything that she's doing. She's trying to help, trying to get Charlie to listen to her, or to anyone really, but it's not working. It's genuinely just a frustrating thing to watch. I think at least this argument between the two of them should have happened an episode earlier, so then we'd at least have enough time for it to flesh out across this episode before it gets resolved in the next. Charlie drives away her dad and then again tries to reach out for her mom, like she'll be some magical fix-all for all the problems that Charlie is causing herself by continually engaging with Vox. This episode was genuinely really good until the last 2 minutes, where again, Charlie's flaws continue to weaken the presence of those around her. I get that she's the daughter of Lucifer, the sin of pride, but you think after last season she'd have learnt a thing or two, no? On to the next, I guess. At least this one is one that I like.
I'm a man of many jobs. One of them being a woman.
This is by a mile my favourite episode in the season. We finally get more time with my favourite two, Husk and Angel, Vox continuing his success streak, nifty shenanigans, and the lesbian sex song. This episode opens with Vox getting Carmilla on his side. It does take a little while, but she's convinced when Vox uses her daughters as leverage, kind of like how Vaggie did last season. Zestial was eavesdropping in the conversation and is not impressed. He wishes for Carmilla to
cometh to thine senses post haste,
and makes a very good point. Vox's true allegiance is only with himself. He's trying to take over heaven and become a god, not simply protect hell. He's the one starting the fight, not the one stopping it, despite what he'd have you think. This also brings me onto a point that I was originally going to make in the middle of last episode, but couldn't work out a good place to fit it. Viv, in an interview, said that Vox was designed to be cartoonishly evil, and taking that into account, and knowing that the script was probably written around 2022, Vox doesn't seem so exaggerated considering recent events. The phrase, "we can make hell great again," springs to mind. Anyway, Carmilla is now on Vox's side too, though more because that's, in her eyes, the winning side. I think this is also the first real time we see Velvet's frustration with Vox too, since he very much did throw her under the bus there.
Fucking motherfucker!
Back at the hotel, Charlie and Vaggie are very much not on speaking terms still, and pull some primary school level drama in front of Husk. I love the little detail here of Husk giving Charlie apple juice instead of alcohol. Even if pissed off at her, he still looks out for her. Cute. Though, eventually, he's had enough and leaves the hotel, claiming to have no real reason to stay. I adore the little rendition of Loser Baby that plays as Husk leaves, and you can tell that he genuinely does care for Angel. Charlie and Vaggie, following the TV broadcast from Vox, go to try to talk to Carmilla about her deal.
I don't have time for this lesbian drama. What is it you want?
Yeah, me neither, Carmilla. It's just more Charlie nonsense, but she seems to at least to start understanding that she's been messing up big time. At last. Husk heads to the Magic Cat Casino, and we get my favourite song of the season, Love in a Bottle. This song has some lovely environmental storytelling about addictions too. At the start, Husk is loving it. He's winning every hand and every roll, loving the drink and being back in his element. But as soon as the key change hits, we see the representation of the phrase, "the house always wins." He's falling apart at the seams and on a losing streak. I'm also going to point out a few of the tiny details that I noticed in this song that I love, such as these champagne bottles that appear to be suspiciously angel dust coloured. He absolutely doesn't need angel. That's why he's drinking the angel dust champagne. And seeing his face and loser baby appear everywhere at the casino. Husk is fine! Nothing is going wrong at all. Oh, also he's drinking a blowjob shot here. Husker dust for season 3, please Viv. Maybe I'm looking into this too much since I have been writing this script for the best part of 2 months on and off, and I think by now I've seen every episode so many times that there's easily a chance that I've been overthinking things. Regardless, Husk is crushing on Angel. The Huskettes have wonderful designs, and I love this song. I may actually learn a piano version of it too, since despite what my speaking voice may suggest, I do actually have a vocal range that lets me hit the lows needed for something such as this song. Speaking of good piano parts and good songs, here's my second favourite song of the season, Losing Streak. It is lovely seeing Angel in a completely different mindset than anywhere else. He seems genuinely happy here. The tenderness he touches the pianist with, the fact that his confidence doesn't seem forced, it's all stunning. This really does just feel like a live performance I'd see in a piano bar too, with gorgeous vocals from Blake Roman, who has one of the most impressive vocal ranges I have ever heard, and a lovely piano and acoustic bass instrumentation. I also love the ending. We want to hear Angel give us that last note, but he disappears behind the curtain without giving us that satisfaction. Following this, we get a reversal of Masquerade in Season 1, with Angel being the one to comfort Husk, and having a continuation from a couple of things from Episode 3. The first being the resolution to the brief argument that Husk and Angel had. Similarly to how Angel felt about himself in Masquerade, Husk was only mad because he didn't see himself as anything worth saving. We also briefly touch on the theme that I wish was explored more too, with the fact that some sinners might not want to be redeemed. Angel seems pretty content with parts of his life here, especially the parts with Husk in it. Again, a rendition of Loser Baby plays in the background here, and this all just feels calm. Angel leaves for another job, and we get to see Husk leave to come back to the hotel. This is a conflict that was given the time it needed to flesh out and make the resolution feel genuine and develop both characters more. I absolutely adore Husk and Angel, and they are probably my main reason for still watching the show after not being so happy with some of the others. How are the V's doing? Same as last time really. Vox is getting more delusional and demanding, with it being explicitly clear now that Velvet and Valentino are getting tired of his antics. And Alistair is as smug as ever. Look at this little smirk. Valentino is tired of feeling like a background character and gives us one of the best moments of the season.
Anyone else got shit to say?
I'm from fucking Florida. Ow!
Nice shot, Val.
Vaggie is back to the hotel, and it's apparent that Nifty's idea of running the hotel was a little different to what Vaggie was hoping for. This episode is the first time we've seen Nifty and Baxter working together outside of little background gags. Though I suppose it was foreshadowed slightly in episode 3, with Baxter experimenting on roaches when Cherry dropped in. The bug band is cute, and we also get to see this pot in the kitchen with a note from Alistair to Nifty specifically telling her not to clean it up, which makes me wonder how many times she has done that for there to specifically be a note on it. Charlie rings from the penthouse, and we get the resolution to the ongoing conflict between her and Vaggie. She's finally thought about everything and realized that Vaggie is right, and is spiraling about all of her friends leaving and that her mom might see her as a failure, and about Vox declaring war, and boom. Lesbian sex. Easy as a song, and the scene before it are really well done, but they just don't feel justified. There's so much stuff that seems to be all condensed down into one scene, where if the episode 4 Charlie fodder was cut, we'd actually have time to develop this Vaggie-Charlie conflict a bit more. It all just feels way too rushed, and I really don't like how Vaggie almost feels like she's apologizing too, when all she's done this season is be completely in the right and get ignored for the entirety of episodes 3, 4, and 5. Now, as for the song itself, Charlie's vocal harmonies are absolutely stunning. Thank you to Fizzy on YouTube, linked below, for this version that isolates Charlie's vocals that I will play a bit of now. Back to Angel. First off, fuck you, Vox. From telling Val in episode 1 to stop hitting Angel to this? Also, him tasting Angel's spit is just vile. It's revealed that Vox has been using Angel Dust as a spy for a while now, and while it's not confirmed, my theory is that this little scene towards the end of Poison was the first time that Vox used Angel for information on the hotel, and from there, he has been used so Vox could always remain one step ahead. The very last scene of this episode shows Vox mimicking Charlie's voice to lure Lucifer somewhere. It really does kind of feel like Vox has an answer to everything, but at the same time, I suppose this was foreshadowed in episode 4 when Vox mimicked Alistair. Good episode all round this time, even if the Charlie stuff did feel a little rushed. Angel is my baby, and I'm so saddened to watch him get hurt again, but at least this time we aren't seeing it be made fun of. I need my Husker Dust next season. God, I need my silly little jumping spider and flying cat to have a happy ending. Well, 2 more to go.
I mean, it's not like any other solutions are falling out of the sky.
Lucifer has been captured? Oh no! Vox has got the power source to his weapon, and has to step between him and Alistair to stop them from bickering. The only other thing this scene really does is show us more about how Lucifer sees sinners. Vox does seem to get very hung up on Lucifer calling him a failure, so much so that he sings an entire song about it. This is probably my favourite Vox song. Brighter is a fantastic song that shows us Vox's history on Earth. First, there's so many little details that show why he looks the way he does in Hell. Heterochromia explains why the eyes on his TV screen have different outlines. His badge on his suit blazer goes from a small fish to a ship to an anchor, and lastly a shark fin, explaining the shark elements of his design, and why he likes Shockwave and has Ethan as his assistant. When the TV falls on Vox towards the end of the song, we see that a glass shard stabs his one eye, explaining why he can only use the hypnosis power with the other. Looking at his time on Earth, too, we can see that his lack of originality continues, with him stealing the suit of every person he takes the place of, similar to how he mimicked Lucifer's suit in episode 5 during the rally. I also love how he starts the song by saying "trust us" and switches to "trust me." I also love how, as he grows more powerful, the people in the audience go from being actual detailed people to mere silhouettes, conveying how he slowly stops seeing his followers as people and merely as numbers. The same as how in Hell now, he needs his ratings to be as high as possible. Oh, and some absolutely divalicious dancing from our TV queen here. Following Brighter, we get to see what happened to Angel Dust. He's absolutely in some form of trance here, and I gotta say, the Vox Tech makeup is not a good color palette for him, but it is a good bit of environmental storytelling that shows that he's no longer in control of his actions. Angel gives a brief speech about the hotel being a joke, and then Vox reveals his weapon.
Ew, I don't like it.
I think he likes it. Vox gives it a little test fire on Heaven, giving Lucifer a bad tickle, and utterly obliterating Heaven's shield. He gives Heaven 24 hours to surrender, or he's taking the place by force. Everything is in motion, and it seems like he has everything under control. Though it's pretty apparent now that Velvet and Valentino are pissed off, and Vox isn't even attempting to smooth things over anymore. Velvet's call does show how much Alistair has been getting into his head. Alistair is very successfully driving a wedge between Vox and the other Vs. It's apparent that Vox's pridefulness is letting his hatred of Alistair overpower his friendship with the Vs. A nice parallel of Charlie. I love the State Gone rendition playing in the background here too. It's such a jovial rendition. Back up in Heaven, we have a song that I didn't realize how much I loved until I was writing this script. I love the piano in the background of the scene before, as it perfectly sets up the song itself. Live to Live is a gorgeous duet between Pentious and Sarah, with a callback to It Starts With Sorry that genuinely made me tear up a little bit when I first heard it. This song shows Pentious helps Sarah to learn to stop letting fear make her choices for her, completing her arc for the season beautifully. Honestly, I think Sarah's arc in the season might just be my favourite, and considering she doesn't have the most amount of screen time, it's actually incredible that it feels really well paced. Sarah starts the season with nothing but fear and doubt in her mind, knowing that she, albeit indirectly, is responsible for the death of thousands of sinners, as she believed a soul's fate was decided upon death. We see her seek forgiveness from the Speaker of God, and ask for guidance for how to move forward. And now, Pentious, the very soul challenging her beliefs, is helping her move through her anxieties and become the leader heaven needs. Following this song, Sarah gives orders that are truly her own for the first time. Emily has the remainder of the time to resolve things peacefully, but Lute and the Exorcists are on standby just in case. After Vox invites Charlie to his little get-together tomorrow, it seems that Charlie finally understands that Vox is not going to listen to her, and she actually does her best to work with Heaven. Gotta say, I'm a little surprised that plot thread got picked up again, considering the rest of her season, but I am glad. Baxter continues to be nothing but a plot device again, apparently being the person who designed the entirety of the VoxTech security system, and is willing to help out. I'm fine with him being on board with the plan, but it does kind of feel like it comes out of nowhere, since I think the show did kind of forget about him as a character, and we've not really seen much of him other than being a plot device and the occasional background gag with Nifty. I just wish we got one more scene with him in the place of the useless Charlie stuff in episode 4. I mean, hell, give us a scene between Nifty and Baxter and we can still get Clean It Up in the season 2. As it stands, I just simply don't believe Baxter's chemistry with the rest of the hotel cast. And sadly, even Vaggie is shocked that Baxter is on board with the plan. I will admit though, I do like that it makes Baxter and Pentious have to work together again.
Yeah! Go team!
Yeah! Wait, who are you?
God, the comedy of this season has been so 50-50. This is just not it. Time for the penultimate song of the season, When I Think About the Future. This is a great end to this episode, a song where we see all the different characters and how they are looking at the events of tomorrow. Charlie, Emily, and the hotel cast are optimistic about the future, and my god, Vaggie's speaking and singing ranges being so different is really noticeable here. It genuinely does not sound like the same person. Vox, as usual, is being unoriginal, and gives us another rendition of Once We Get Up There, this time singing Once I Get Up There, showing just how far in his delusion he is now. Alistair keeps taking little jabs at him, and I love that Vox has the audacity to say that he won't gloat, when he's been doing that all season. Valentino's section in the song does something quite interesting, in the fact that it almost makes us feel sympathy for Val, which is not inherently a bad thing. Yes, Valentino is an evil villain, and in my opinion is the cruelest of the V's, but showing this side to him is good, as it makes him less one-dimensional as a character, which a good villain should be. There are two main types of villains in media. Classic villains, such as Adam from last season, who are evil without any real redeeming qualities. Adam was just an asshole character who was evil for the thrill of it. And anti-villains, ones that see themselves as a hero of sorts, such as Vox. Personally, I'd place Valentino as a classic villain, as I don't think he really sees himself as a hero. He's abusive, violent, and doesn't do it for reasons that he sees as morally correct or the like. However, giving him this new side does show that he's not some cartoonishly evil villain without any other side to him. I still absolutely hate Valentino, but he's honestly one of my favourite characters in the show. It's hard to write a villain that is universally hated, and Viv and her team nailed it. But still, I think it's important to show that he does have more going on than just pure villainy. I will make one thing clear, however. It by no means justifies his actions. All it does is show that he also has emotions that aren't rage. All things considered, Valentino is a phenomenally written character, and with him being the new head of the V's going into season 3, I cannot wait to see more from him. Velvet joins in the song next, comforting Val in her own special way, also known as calling out Vox for being a prick. This gets the two of them back on board for the plan. Probably wouldn't happen if Velvet had heard Vox say that he doesn't need a squad a little bit ago. Hi Luke, how's the Gravity Reprise going? Good, good. Abel helping you out? Shame you don't do anything this season aside from threaten to kill everyone. Lastly, Sarah has a small section at the end of the song, bringing us back to the main motif. It shows that while she is still afraid of what might happen, that fear is no longer guiding her. She's proving herself to be a powerful leader that commands respect. Overall, I do quite like this episode. Nothing feels rushed, Charlie is actually likable again, Sarah's arc is beautiful, and we see the start of heaven and hell truly working together. We have 3 very good songs, with 2 of them being pretty high up in my favourites. One more episode to go, let's see how this season ends.
Say goodbye, gato.
Goodbye. What?
The hotel cast splits into 4. Nifty and Baxter will hijack the security system and set up the broadcast. Husk and Cherry will rescue Angel, Charlie and Emily will actually present, and Vaggie will try to work out how to destroy Vox's doomsday weapon. A pretty good plan, Vaggie's role aside. Charlie and Vaggie show up to the party, and first off, love their outfits. Vox pretty quickly drives Valentino off when he puts Charlie between the 2 of them at the table, with Velvet trying to follow him and get him to calm down for the time being. Following Husk, Cherry, Nifty, and Baxter getting inside V Tower, we see the latter 2 make their way to the server room and hijack the system to let Charlie present, interrupting Vox's slideshow of Charlie humiliation. Alistair does look almost proud of Charlie here, which is a little surprising, since he does seem to entirely care about himself and his own gain. Charlie begins to give her presentation, but Vox is not about to just let her.
Alright, princess, this is my
Always wanted to do that.
This is absolutely my favourite joke of the entire season. This got such a good laugh out of me the first time I watched it. Well, with Vox out of the way for now, it's time to start the presentation. Except Velvet has something to say about it. Her and Nifty fighting is absolutely wonderful, and it's nice to see Nifty be more of a character and not just comic relief. I really hope this continues next season, especially since outside of this episode, she's had Clean It Up, a couple background gags with Baxter, the Bug Band, and stabbed a sinner with a knife play kink. We're finally starting to see more of her, and I really like it, so I hope they keep it up. Back with Emily and Charlie, they're both on stage trying to convince Hell that redemption is possible, but Vox is back and has control of the entire crowd. Alistair chimes in at last, his plan finally being revealed. Remember last season when he made a deal with Charlie for one simple favor? I'll be honest, I had actually forgotten about that until this. And I think this is such a crafty way to bring it back, using his deal with Charlie to get him out of his deal with Rosie, and then also knowing that Vox is too full of himself to not touch Charlie, breaking him out of that deal as well. Once again, Alistair steals the show here. I love this pitched up rendition of Stayed Gone here, as it feels so much more menacing than the original song, and perfectly sets up the incredible fight between Vox and Alistair here, with Vox eventually calling on Shockwave to help out, still unable to take on Alistair one-on-one. Telling, really. I also love the glitching effects on Vox's voice here, it's a really nice touch. Velvet is losing to Nifty, somehow. I very much did not see that coming and really thought someone else would have stepped in to assist, or Vox losing it would have took out Velvet by proxy. But no, Nifty is just outclassing her here. She kicks Velvet out of V Tower, and I think that's the final straw for her believing in Vox's plan. Cherry and Husk haven't been getting on that much better either. Valentino caught them in the act of stealing angel dust, and the 2 of them have been fighting him while everything else has been going on. Husk's powers are just so cool, and he and Cherry are such an enjoyable pair to watch. And it is so damn satisfying to watch Cherry punch Val in the face. Eventually, they do manage to defeat Val, using his poor eyesight against him. We see Angel protect Val again, similar to when he ran in between Charlie and Val last season, except it's much darker this time. Angel is pretty much a mindless drone here. Thankfully, they do break Angel from his trance and get the better of Val. Vox's delusion has fully taken over at this point. He is so desperate for Alistair's approval that he would rather kill himself and half of the pentagram just to one-up him. Carmilla tries to warn him, but it's no use. Vox is too far gone at this point, and it takes Velvet kicking him off the Might of Lilith, and Valentino literally ripping his head off for Vox to finally be dethroned. And that's his run as a villain for the season over. Vox was a phenomenal threat this season, and I absolutely love him as a villain. I also love the way they contrast him with Charlie, even if I'm not the biggest fan of her this season. Both of them rely on those around him, with Charlie accepting that and working with people, while Vox grows delusional with the power and forgets where it came from. Both are also very prideful people too, with Charlie taking Vox's depictions of her and the hotel very personally, and Vox taking Alistair's comments to heart and needing to prove to him that he's good enough. Which brings me on to the next similarity between them, that being how much they both crave approval from the public. Charlie has been trying to prove her hotel works across both seasons now, and Vox has been playing people in hell like they are a ratings game, trying to get the highest score possible. They have a lot of similarities, and it's why Vox is such an effective threat to Charlie. He knows her insecurities because they're his insecurities too, not that he'd ever admit it. And I absolutely think that this line here,
"You are a pale imitation of your mother,"
was Vox projecting his own insecurities onto Charlie. And hey, it worked! Charlie spent most of the season playing into Vox's hands, which is why it felt so frustrating to watch her. Vox knew exactly what to do, and he did it until he lost his marbles in Act 3. Alistair predicted it perfectly. I am curious to see what role the V's will have next season. As I mentioned before, we know that Valentino has taken over, and with him being the most emotionally unstable of the three, and no longer having a Vox to restrain him, I can see the V's being a pretty big threat still, especially to Angel Dust, and Husk and Cherry by extension. On to Hear My Hope, the last song of the season, and again, it's another ensemble. All of the overlords, Charlie and Emily working together to safely dispose of the might of Lilith. The fact that it takes 14 of them just to match Lucifer's power really shows just how strong he can be. Luke gets another gravity reprise, yet still does absolutely nothing aside from fight Vaggie again. Abel, however, finally gets his moment. Abel's breakdown is the other section from a song that got its own Spotify upload, and it's not hard to hear why. Patrick Stump, Abel's VA, is the lead singer from Fall Out Boy, and my god, it is good to hear him get his time in the spotlight here. I believe that Haft said in an interview originally that this part of the song was going to be longer too, which would have been lovely. Seeing Abel finally grow a spine and stand up to Loot did come out of nowhere, but I think it's the best way that it could have been done to have this visual, Abel with his father's shadow behind him, to be as impactful as possible. I also love that towards the end of Abel's section, Adam's voice can also be heard singing along. I do wish from a storytelling point of view that Abel was built up a little bit more, but I can't complain with how it's done because I love this visual of him. Alistair's section in the song is very cunning, as from Charlie's perspective, it looks like he only left to go and get Rosie to help, when in reality, he was very willing to let everyone die, since he wouldn't personally gain anything from helping them. All round, really good song, and I like that Velvet and Valentino help out too. Their harmonies really help the song feel a lot more full. Oh, and Angel's lower arms are missing in this shot. Following the end of the song, Pentious' broadcast goes through and we get to see him reunited with the hotel cast, if only temporarily. The last thing I really want to talk about is the absolute heartbreak that is the end of Angel, Husk, and Cherry's story for the season. Angel leaves, going back to Val, as he's scared he'll keep hurting his friends, and doesn't feel like he ever truly had a choice, or was acting of his own volition. I so badly need him to get a happy ending. It's a good ending to the season, and the conclusion we get with everyone does feel very deserved. Charlie and Vaggie seem closer than ever, Alistair returns with Lucifer being his new obsession, and I'm curious what they'll do with him next season with Lilith coming back into the picture, as I genuinely can see him becoming more of a villain. Husk and Cherry seem down, but thankfully they have each other to look out for. And Heaven are working with Hell a lot more closely now, so things are really looking up. So, what did I think of Season 2 as a whole? Sadly, in my opinion, it's worse than Season 1 overall. So much stuff that was already set up in Season 1 just went nowhere this season, such as Loot and Lilith. Unfortunately, I think that aside from a few key things, such as the reason Sinners are at the hotel, Vox's reputation going down the drain, and Angel's absence, the events of Season 2 will largely not matter to the overall story, as a lot of the main themes from Season 1 seem to not carry over as much this season. With the pacing too, a lot of it felt very cramped while other parts did feel like they dragged a bit, such as the very first episode or Charlie's antics in episode 4. While I let the rough pacing of parts of season 1 slide, I can't do that as much with season 2. The episodes are longer, but as there's now 3 songs in some episodes, there's not always enough time for everything that needs to happen actually happen without it feeling very cramped. I think this problem is also amplified by the sheer number of characters that Hazbin Hotel has. We have the hotel cast: Charlie, Faggy, Angel, Husk, Nifty, Baxter, Cherry, and Alistair. The V's: Vox, Velvet, and Valentino. The Overlords: Rosie, Carmilla, Zestial, Zizi, Prick, Hatchet, and Maestro. And the Heaven cast: Adam, Lute, Sarah, Emily, Abel, and the Speaker of God. That's 24 characters. Yes, a few of the Overlords don't really have any presence, but removing those still only knocks it down to 20. 20 characters, all of which have their own beliefs, motives, and arcs, across roughly 4 hours. That's on average 12 minutes a character. If you remove songs, which yes, some do help drive the plot, that goes down to a little under 10 minutes per character, which just isn't enough to do anything. Obviously, some characters such as Charlie are going to get a lot more screen time than, say, Zestial, but here, she ended up taking so much of the screen time that it actively hurt the other characters. Angel, Husk, Cherry, Baxter, and Nifty all really didn't get a whole lot to do this season because of Charlie taking up way too much time. I really hope Viv and her team can listen to feedback and learn from this for season 3. Right, let's end this segment on a more positive note. Sam Haft nailed it with the music this season. I was honestly expecting the songs this season to be on par with season 1 at most, but I think overall they are consistently better. While I think my favourite song is still Poison, overall I do like the songs from this season more than last. I like this show. Yes, I have problems with it. No, it's not perfect by any means, but I like it. Lastly, let's do a couple rankings lists. First, I'll go through all the songs from both seasons, from my least favourite to my favourite. Then all the episodes from both seasons in the same order. On screen, I'll also put my score out of 10 for them and a little summary of why. More Than Anything Reprise. Welcome to Heaven. Speedrun to Redemption. It Starts With Sorry. Hell is Forever. Happy Day in Hell. Vox Day. Like You. Hazbin Guarantee. Trust Us. Easy. Finale. When I Think About the Future. Clean It Up. Whatever It Takes. Piss, a Love Song. Hear My Hope. Once We Get Up There. You Didn't Know. Hell's Greatest Dad. Stayed Gone. Vox Populi. Don't You Forget. Gravity. Out for Love. Sarah's Confession. Don't You Forget Reprise. Bad With Us. Brighter. More Than Anything. Respectless. Live to Live. Loser Baby. Ready for This. Losing Streak. Love in a Bottle. Poison. And the episodes? Same again, worst to best with a score out of 10 and my reasoning why. It's a Deal. The Show Must Go On. New Pentious. Behind Closed Doors. Dad Beat Dad. Overture. Cutting Call. Weapon of Mass Distraction. Radio Killed the Video Star. Scrambled Eggs. Silenced. Hello Rosie. Storyteller. Welcome to Heaven. Scream Rain. Masquerade. And with that, I think that's everything I have to say about Hazbin Hotel. I might make a similar video once season 3 comes out, but unless I want to lose myself in hell of a boss, I think I'll probably not be talking about anything Vivziepop for a while. I have consumed far too much Hazbin Hotel over the last few months of writing and making this video, and I have a much needed detox to go on. Anyways, if you did enjoy, please do consider liking and subscribe to see more of me. Did the button do the thing? I need to know, did it do the thing? I also stream over on Twitch if you want to see me play and speedrun games. As always, I have been Foxy, thank you for watching, and good night.